Hi guys, it's me, and this video is not about hair and it's not about beauty. What I am going to touch upon in this video is that vacation time is slowly approaching. And for many of us, that means researching, it means choosing a place to visit. It means making plans for wherever we're going. Now, for my husband and I, um, my lipstick, simply because my vacation time at work is limited. Thank you, United States of America corporations, for only giving us like 10 PTO days as opposed to what the Europeans get, 6 weeks. Um, so my vacation time is limited. Now, what we're going to be doing this summer is going to Cincinnati because my daughter is getting married and she is getting married in Cincinnati. I am so happy that she is getting married in a city because I'm a city person. I don't much care for the suburbs. I was born in a city. I was born in New York City. I lived in New York City for many years before moving out to Long Island. And I will say that the town in Long Island that I grew up with in Brightwaters, it's the best suburb in the whole world. Probably because I had such a great time growing up. But other than that, I love visiting cities. New Orleans, Chicago, like Sydney, Australia, Dublin, Belfast. Any city that I go to makes me happy. And because of my husband's growing up in Paris, we go to Paris a lot. Now, we usually go to the south of France in the summer, but as I said, um, my vacation time is limited. So we are going to go back to Paris next November. Now, my husband, ever the planner, has already started planning our trip back to Paris, and he's already made hotel reservations. So this video is going to be basically if it's your first time in Paris, um, I don't want to sound preachy and I don't want to sound like I'm pontificating, oh, you should listen to me because I'm no travel agent, but I've been to Paris about 18 times. So I'm pretty familiar with the city. So I kind of would like to offer some tips if you're going to Paris for the first time. And if you're going there for just a few days, I kind of want to offer some advice. So, where do I start? Okay, you're going to Paris for the first time. You've never been there before. I don't know what your personal budget is, but for the majority of us, we cannot afford to stay at the Plaza Athénée. So, my recommendation is to do your homework. There are a lot of small boutique hotels throughout Paris that are wonderful. Now, I've never spent any time in an Airbnb, so I am not one to give you any sort of advice about staying at an Airbnb. I was very fortunate, like extremely fortunate, to have been able to spend 10 years worth of visits at my husband's aunt's apartment. So for me, it was more like living like the locals, which I think is great. And that's why I think it's important if you're staying in Paris, I would say for a week or more, I would highly, highly recommend renting an apartment. There are a lot of apartments to rent. There are a lot of websites. You can Google apartments to rent for vacation in Paris. Um, I think it's a wonderful way to get a feel of what it's like to live in a great, great city. And trust me, Paris is a great city. But I also want to touch on the fact that a lot of people are kind of intimidated. The Paris that you see throughout Facebook and Instagram photos is a more romanticized version of the city. Um, you don't have to walk the streets in Paris in stiletto heels and a tulle skirt holding a balloon. Okay. That's not the way it is. Throughout the day in Paris, you're going to see women that have mastered the art. And when I say it's an art of wearing incredibly high heels on some of the older cobblestone streets, God bless them because I would be in a hospital with a broken bone. But I'm going to touch on shoes to wear while you're touring. So let me not get ahead of myself. Um, you will notice that most people in Paris, like even though they do have some style and panache, and I would say that their taste in clothes is superior to what we are wearing because they definitely know themselves better and they do a lot of boutique shopping where we do a lot of mall shopping. I mean, I'm not going to lie. J. Crew is my favorite store, and I'm not a boutique shopper. But most of the women in Paris are great at boutique shopping and they have great taste. So I'm going to leave that at that. But what I also want to say is you'll see people in Paris that look just like everybody else. They're on their way to work in the day. They're, like there's not there's really nothing to be intimidated by. Um, one of the tips that I really want to make sure you're aware of is when you do go over to Paris, just learn a few basic words because the Parisians are very, very big on proper etiquette, which I think is wonderful because it's a lost art sometimes. They're big on politeness and they're big on proper etiquette. So when you're entering into a store, remember to always greet the store owner with bonjour, madame, or bonjour, monsieur. And it'll be really nice because as they start speaking to you, you can actually kind of ask them, even in broken French, parlez anglais? And then they'll kind of get the gist because trust me, most shop owners speak English, even if it's broken. And when you're leaving a store, remember to say au revoir, or even like to make them feel even better, say bonne journée. And that's it. All you need to do is just be polite. Um, I honestly have never had a problem with anybody being rude or thinking that I was crazy because my French really isn't the greatest, but I try. Um, when I go into a restaurant, I always order my food in French, and my husband is there to coach me, so I'm pretty fortunate. But all you have to do is just be nice. You don't have to sit there and like smile and be like peppy American because that's not how the French are. The French are very pragmatic people. They're very to the point and they're blunt. So all you need to do is just try to be the same way. You don't have to be like the peppy, smiley, like, oh, hi, how are you today? No, you don't have to be like that. And it's okay. You will still be respected and you will still be helped upon and you will still be able to just be treated kindly. That's all. But you need to have a certain respect for the Parisians, or basically, you know what? You need to have a certain respect for the people of any country that you visit. That's basically what it comes down to. It comes down to just respectfulness. But the other thing is what to see when you're going to Paris for the first time. Now, my husband and I have different views on this, and we definitely see things differently. In fact, I'm doing a blog post about this where I'm going to do a he says, she says, where I'm giving his recommendations and he's going to write them, and I'm going to give my recommendations and I'm going to write them. Now, he says Louvre, I say Orsay. And this is if you are going to Paris for a couple of days. Now, if you're going to Paris for 3 or 4 days, personally, I don't think that your schedule should be too ambitious because Paris is the kind of city that you kind of want to soak in and you really want to take the time to enjoy it. Trust me, if you go once, chances are you're going to want to go back. And it's just it's the kind of city you just savor. You don't have to see everything in 48 or like I don't know, 48 or 72 hours, whatever it is for 3 days. Um, the Louvre can be overwhelming. I would say if you are in Paris for a week, take a couple of days and like visit the Louvre twice because there's a lot going on in that museum. But if you're just going to be there for 3 days, I think the Orsay is absolutely a wonderful museum to visit. There's great works of art. It's not a tiny museum, but it's not overwhelming. And uh, the paintings, you're going to see beautiful, beautiful paintings. You're going to see beautiful sculptures, and it is very, very doable. You can do it in a day. You can see what you want in 3 hours. That's it. I also suggest if you are in Paris for a few days to check out the Musée du Luxembourg. It's in the Luxembourg Gardens and it's a smaller museum, but some of the exhibits that they have are freaking amazing. We went this November to the Musée de Luxembourg to see the Alphonse Mucha exhibit, and I love all things like Belle Epoque, and his illustrations and paintings are just so magnificent and beautiful that like, I was just staring at some of this stuff for like longer than I needed to. And the funny thing is, my husband isn't a Mucha fan. So he complied with me because he knows how much I love Mucha. And I think that's also a key thing. If you're going with your better half or even with friends, I think you need to get together beforehand and you kind of need to go over a little bit of what everybody wants to see. You need to comply. So this way, there's not going to be any tension during the trip or any ill feelings. You really need to get together as a group and decide just what you want to see. Now, I know with the museum pass, a lot of people swear by the museum passes because it helps cut down on the lines. We don't use the museum passes because we like to be a little bit more spontaneous in our visits there. Um, we usually have the use of a car, so we'll drive outside of the city limits to visit places. And that's another thing that I want to talk about. If you do have the use of a car, um, parking is really bad. Like street parking is horrible. It makes like I thought street parking in Manhattan was bad, but man, street parking in Manhattan is great compared to the street parking in Paris. My suggestion is to leave enough money within your budget for a car, and this is purely if you want to drive, for a car for the price of petrol and for the price of parking. I think that needs to be part of your vacation budget if you're going to use a car, because outside of Paris, there are wonderful, wonderful places to see. And if you do not want to be on, if you don't want to depend on a train schedule to kind of make your day, and if you like the independence of a car, I think it's far better to rent a car than using the train. That's just me. A lot of people are control freaks. This is the control freak way to see Paris and the outskirts of Paris. But if you are renting a car, and another thing to do is get a little baggie and fill it with French change, like with euros, because when you hit the tolls, you're not going to want to use a credit card because sometimes it's a pain in the neck. You just want to load those like toll thingies with change, with euro change. So that's just like a little bit of information that I want to pass on because we do use a car a lot. Now, my husband thinks that Versailles is the must see if you do have a car or if you are planning a day trip by train. He swears he swears on Versailles. Me, not so much. I love Versailles, but if you're going there in the summer, I am not waiting on a line. I hate waiting on lines. I am not a line person. My thing is, let me get there as early as possible. I want to get in. I want to see everything beautiful. I want to take my time. I don't want to be near the crowds and I want to leave. Okay. The best trip that I had to Versailles was in the middle of winter a few years back because we went on a weekday. It was freezing cold and nobody was there. That's the way I like to sightsee. And I happen to like Paris better in the winter than in the summer. But again, that's just me. What I like better, what I would recommend more for a first visit to Paris, if you have the use of a car, and I'm pretty sure the train goes there too, is Fontainebleau. It is Napoleon's little castle, and to me, it's just more intimate than Versailles. Um, you can see Versailles on the TV show Versailles. You can see Versailles in many movies, but Fontainebleau is a different story, and it's just gorgeous in its ornate like intimacy, if you will. That's just me. So let's get back to the city centre in Paris. Um, I think if you're going there for the first time, two good neighborhoods to stay in are either the Marais or Saint Germain. Um, actually, three like the Latin Quarter. The Saint Germain area is thriving and it's the sixth arrondissement. I think the Marais is the second arrondissement, but I'm not too sure. This video is totally off the cuff, so I'm not like referring to anything. Um, but in the Marais, there's a lot going on. It's such a vibrant area, and I think it's really good area for young people going there. The sixth arrondissement is my favorite. It's where my husband's aunt lived, so I spent many, many years and many visits there. It's the area that I feel most comfortable in because it is truly a neighborhood. The walking around there is so great because there's always something going on and it's close to a lot. Now, again, with my husband recommends the Cathedral of Notre Dame for people that even if you're there the first time, again, I'm probably the worst Catholic in the world for saying this, but a lot of times there's a lot of like there are oftentimes long lines to get into Notre Dame. Um, the two churches that I love are Saint Severin and Saint Sulpice. I've gone to mass at both churches. I love them. They're old. They're like musty smelling. They're just beautiful in their kind of simplicity. They're a lot more simplistic than Notre Dame is. I'm not, trust me, I'm not knocking Notre Dame. I even went to confession at Notre Dame. So there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just giving you my preferences, especially if it's truly like really crowded. You can take pictures of the outside. There's a lot going on in the little area outside the cathedral. Um, Personally, my husband thinks I'm a nut. He thinks that there's actually something wrong with me because I just would rather go to Saint Sulpice or Saint Severin. And he just, every time we pass Notre Dame, let me put it to you this way, his reaction is, I cannot believe that you say, is a nice church. This is not a church. This is the cathedral that everybody should see. And why do you say, don't go there? He gets really upset. And the thing is, he's not even a church goer. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So there's a lot like I have a lot of I have a lot of weird things about what I like and what I don't like. I think one of the greatest must see places for anybody, whether it's your first visit or whether it's a visit that you're on your 20th visit and you haven't gone there yet, is Invalids. It's the military hospital slash museum, and Napoleon's tomb is there. This is crazy. And I am not a military person, but this museum is nuts. That's how good it is. You get to see all of the great military uniforms. And I'm telling you, if I could have gotten away with it, I would have broken into that place and stolen one of those military uniforms because it's got that really crazy Napoleon hat and the military jackets. I was in fashion show heaven and I was just enthralled. They also have coats of armor that are like crazy good to see. And they have these little dolls that are all dressed in uniform. Oh my God, I love that place. And last year, my son and his girlfriend went to Paris for a couple of days. And like, God bless them, they were riding bikes throughout the city. I would have been hit by a car or a Vespa. But when my son Jake told me he went to Invalids, I almost did the happy dance because I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, you went there. The place is so great. I love it. Like, I really get excited about places that I love. Um, with restaurants, try to stick to a place where the locals go. I know a lot of people are spending a lot of money. And if you're a foodie, so to speak, and if you've saved to go to Jules Verne in the Eiffel Tower, by all means, God bless you. I think that's great. I think because I was fortunate enough to have my husband's aunt's housekeeper cook for us, I had some great home cooked meals there. So I haven't gone out to dinner as much back then as we have started to within the recent years. One restaurant that I absolutely love that's a great neighborhood place is um, Restaurant Paul. It's not part of the chain of Paul's. It's a separate entity and it's on Place Dauphine next to La Caveau. I believe the same owner owns Paul that owns La Caveau. But this particular restaurant is on Place Dauphine, which is just over Pont Neuf in the first arrondissement. Um, The restaurant is great. It's a small restaurant, it's an intimate restaurant. We have been eating there for years, and it is consistent in the quality and the help. The staff there is great. In the summer, you can sit outside and see all the goings on Place Dauphine. It's so much fun. And in the winter, you have the pleasure of being indoors where it's nice and toasty and warm, and the food is still really good. The same with La Caveau. La Caveau is really, really good too, and it's right next door. But my preference is for Restaurant Paul or Chez Paul, however you want to call it. But that's one of my recommendations. If you want to go for a fancy or like a more like, I guess, modern vibey type place, we've been to Frenchie, and Frenchie is great. I think the best meal I ever had there was the first time that we went to Frenchie. Um, I would say make your reservations for Frenchie well in advance. I don't know how I don't know if it's still as popular as it was, but I'm sure it is. So if you're planning on a really good meal, and I recommend Frenchie, and make your reservations ahead. Remember that there are certain days of the week that restaurants are closed. This past visit, besides going to Paul, we went to Allard, which is in the sixth arrondissement. Alain Ducasse owns it. Uh, the meal that I had was great. I had beef cheeks, and that's the other thing. When you go to a city like Paris, go out of your comfort zone when it's time to eat food. Try something that you've never had before, because chances are you're going to have a great meal. I had never had beef cheeks before. I wanted to try them. And after I tried them, next time we go back to that restaurant, I'm going with the beef cheeks again. Uh, It was great. But that's the thing, like, go outside of your comfort zone. You're not at home, you are somewhere else, so it's fun to experiment. And when all else fails, there's always a creperie that you can go to, and there's always a creperie stand where you can get a Nutella crepe and really enjoy a little snack during the day. But, oh yeah, the Eiffel Tower. In all the years that I have been going to Paris, I have never been inside the Eiffel Tower. I've been on the grounds, and it's too many people. But I've passed by it driving so many times, and it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful structure. It's very crowded. I would say if you are there for the first time, you might be waiting on a line to get into the tower, but I think if the weather is nice, pack a picnic lunch and sit outside the grounds and enjoy the scenery and just take a lot of pictures, because structurally it is beautiful. But I don't think it's a necessary site to go into if you're there for the first time. That's just me. But what I will say, if you do have a car, and this is one of the most fun things to do in Paris, if you do have a car and the evening's wine has worn off, or if you go out to dinner one night, try not to have wine, because I think one of the most fun things to do is wait till midnight and then go to the car and then drive around the city. It's one of the most fun things to do, because Paris is the city of lights. And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of spectacular and breathtaking when you're just kind of driving around doing nothing and just looking at the buildings and the sights when there's no traffic on the road. It's just, I don't know. it's just it just makes you happy to be where you are. Um, there's so much more that I want to say, but I've taken a half hour up of your time, so I feel kind of bad. I'm going to do another video about shopping, but I'll do that next week because I really don't want to bombard you with stuff. And I don't want anybody to think, oh my God, she's such a freaking know it all. Because I'm not. There's still a lot about Paris that I've yet to discover. Um, I will say this, the best way for me to walk to discover the city is by being a flaneur, or I think if you're a girl, it's a flaneuse, and that is just a wanderer. Your 2 feet are the best transport for Paris. Um, it's the greatest place next to New York City to walk in. And if you've been walking all day, that means you're going to be able to enjoy a great meal at night without having the guilt that, oh my God, I'm eating so much. Because trust me, once you start walking around Paris, you are going to be walking all day. It's great. And that brings me to wearing comfortable shoes. You can wear comfortable shoes that are still really, how can I say, functional and nice. I have a pair of ballet slippers from Air Nike, Cole Haan Air Nike, when they made the Air Nikes. I don't think they make them anymore, but these flats have been with me for years throughout all of my visits in all parts of France and in Paris. I don't want to dress like a slob when I'm in any city. So I make sure that I wear comfortable clothes. But that's for another video. I'm going to go now. I'm really sorry I took up so much of your time. If you want me to do another video on exploring Paris or tips for going to Paris, since I go there often, um, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. If you think I'm being like kind of like an ass, then just give me a thumbs down and tell me no. Like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'll be okay with that. But that's it. Some of my honest tips, you know, that's it. So I will see you later. And hopefully you would like to see another video where I just chat off the cuff about going to Paris or any other part of France. Take care and have a great day. Bye.